Hello, welcome to Human Tech, a podcast about the intersection between humans and technology. My name is Guthrie, and I'm here with Susan. Hi, Susan.
Hey, Guthrie, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty well, you know. It's a beautiful day here in Chicago. Nice and sunny.
Really?
And yes, indeed. So today's topic is going to be a little bit of a mix. It's a topic that we should, talk about anyways, but it's especially relevant in today's climate, which is remote user testing.
Yeah, that doesn't sound particularly exciting.
Well,
but
if you're into user testing, I mean...
actually, it's not remote user testing. You have it wrong.
Oh, okay. I have today's topic wrong.
Remote user research.
Remote user research.
Because user testing is just one part of
user.
Yeah. I want to talk about... I want to talk about doing all kinds of user research, but doing it when you can't be in person with the people that you're researching.
So this is a trend that even if COVID had never happened, we probably would have talked about at some point. It's become really, unless you're, maybe you're making like medical devices for doctors in room or, an in-person experience, to do as much as possible remotely has really become the trend in the industry. And why is that?
Was that a rhetorical question, or are you asking me?
Yes, it's a rhetorical question I'm throwing to you.
Oh, well,
it's a two-word answer.
Now we're doing a guessing game. It's cheaper?
Cheap, yes.
No.
Yes.
I don't know if I agree with that.
You don't agree with me?
Because
I feel like all of our clients, they're always doing remote stuff because they can't afford to do in-person stuff.
I think it's a lot more complicated than that.
Okay. All right. So then I will cuz I guess my hill I'm standing on is that it's cheap, so everyone wants to do it, and then they sort of justify the benefits later.
It can be cheaper. It might not be cheaper.
All right, so let's I'll let you start from the beginning then.
Okay. Well, and it is trendy. I mean, yeah, regardless of COVID and everyone, working from home and not getting together and so on, it's true that it is trending. However, there was a lot of user research done in person before this, and I think that there'll probably be a lot of it done in person after this. But anyway, we can talk about what it is and what the challenges are of doing user research remotely, what the advantages, there's actually some advantages of doing user research remotely, and so on. Is that what you just want me to dive in, right?
Yes.
All right.
You
So
should start with what is remote user research?
Okay. What is remote user research? Remote user research is when you are doing any kind of research on your target audience and you are not in the same room with them. That's what I'm going to say. So...
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's an interesting definition.
It's a weird definition, I know, but it kind of... Yeah, go ahead.
So does that count like through the two-way mirror? The one-way mirror?
Oh. All right. I have to adjust the definition already, and I just started. I need to drink some more coffee here.
I'm an attorney.
You're really... I feel like I'm under cross-examination. I need more coffee if you're going to do this. Okay, then I take that back. Okay. You are not... you are not in the same building? Can I do that? That seems a weirder definition.
I think broader would work better.
What's broader than that?
Why are you limiting it by the physical space? Why don't you just find it in terms of the interaction between the people?
Because actually I don't know that it is defined by the interaction between people. So let me tell you about what I think are the different kinds of remote user research. And then
how about this? How about this?
What?
Because usually, even if you're in the other room, like with a two-way mirror, like you're observing the person directly. So how about the entire interaction from observation to communication is done remotely?
Okay, you want to define remote, Lee? Because that's what I thought we were defining. Was what does remotely mean?
Remotely would be like, I mean, if you want to do different building, I suppose that technically works. But just like all the communication is done over, some sort of electronic communication interface. There is there's no like, I can't hear you from the next room over. I'm not talking to someone who's in the other room. Like, there's no, like, I couldn't like run in and interrupt anything.
Right. Okay. I can work with that.
Okay.
So there's all kinds of, but having given that definition, it's still pretty broad. So there's a lot of things that you can do. A lot of user research you can do. How did you define it again? It was the communication.
User research that's done entirely, sort of without any physical interaction. So the entire research is done through and communication is done through electronic means.
Okay, I can go with that. Wow, you really do have your lawyer hat on today. So let's walk through a bunch of examples, and I actually break it down into the following things. I have like 3 main buckets. Okay, so I have remote moderated, remote unmoderated, and automated. Okay, so
remote those definitions.
Remote moderated means you are, whatever research you're doing, and this could be interviews, it could be what we think of as usability testing, you could be interviewing users, you could be interviewing stakeholders, right? All of that. You're doing the research in real time, synchronously, okay? But you're not physically present. So I might be doing an interview with you that maybe I would do it usually I would do it in person, but now we're doing it over the phone, or we're doing it in a video chat. Or I'm conducting a user test the same way I always conduct a user test. I have tasks I ask you to do, and I watch you do those tasks. But what I'm watching, for instance, again, on video chat, you're sharing your screen. I'm watching what you're doing and listening to you talk as you are doing it, right? So it's synchronous. And I think that's the easiest, if we're going to talk about, all right, we're used to doing our user research by being in the room with people, and now we need to transition. Doing it the way I just described, remote moderated, I think is the easiest transition. I mean, it's really, and we'll talk about some of the things you have to do differently than you're used to if you're doing it remotely, but it's really similar to whatever it was you were doing before, assuming you were doing some user research before. So remote unmoderated means you're not there to moderate the session. And so that means that it's asynchronous. So it's not happening at the same time. So you're setting everything up ahead of time. You've prepared all of your materials ahead of time, and you are not present when the information is being collected. And usually this means you're doing a remote unmoderated user test, which is probably what you were thinking of when you introduced and said, let's talk about remote user testing, right? And we'll talk about all the tools and all the different ways this is done. So that's bucket number 2. And then bucket number 3 is what I consider, well, let me back up. To me, remote unmoderated also includes doing surveys, right? So I prepare all the survey ahead of time. I send it out. The people take the survey. It comes back to me. Also, besides regular user tests, remote unmoderated would include doing, there are tools that let you do card sorting and tree testing, and that can all be done remote unmoderated. Then there's the automated tools, and this would be like, this is you're collecting data on people. It's not like you're doing a particular study and you have to set it up. This would be like just collecting quantitative data, heat map, visits, clicks, throughs, that kind of thing. Now, I have a question for you, Guthrie.
Yes.
Which bucket would you put A/B testing? So we have 3 buckets: remote moderated, remote unmoderated, and automated tools. Remembering that remote unmoderated means you've got particular materials for this test.
Isn't it just automated tools?
I don't know. I think so. Although, yeah,
it's automated.
It's automated. Yeah.
So.
Okay. I just wondered. I wasn't sure whether to put it in remote unmoderated because, you have to prepare material ahead of time, but it's not like you're preparing a particular user research study.
Well, there are different ways to do A/B testing. This is true, but the normal way that most people think about it is, well, I'm just going to queue up sort of 2 versions of website code and have the software kind of decide, which one, and try to maximize something.
Right. That's where I put it, but I wanted to get your opinion.
Yeah, no, I think that's right.
All right. So anyway, those are the kind of 3 buckets. So, do you have any comments or questions on that, or you want me to keep rolling?
Keep going. No, I think that makes sense. The automated tools. Automated tools is interesting because a lot of times they don't really feel like user research.
Yeah.
Because it's just like quantitative analytic data.
Yeah.
Like would you consider number of time, like number of times someone looks at a certain, does a click through of something, and you have that data. It's like, well, 11% of people who get to this page, click on this picture.
Click on this, yeah.
Is that user research?
To me, I do consider that part of user research. I mean, I think it can be used as user research. Okay? So I think it's part of the toolkit. We definitely tend to focus when we are doing user research with clients or teaching them about it or whatever. We focus on qualitative for sure, not quantitative. But I think you can use that kind of automated quantitative data as part of your user research plan in a variety of ways. You can look at the automated data that's coming in, the quantitative data, and based on that, decide what further research to do, or it can be part of your, you might have done, sometimes sometimes what's going on in the quantitative data makes us want to dig deeper with a particular user research study. Sometimes it's the opposite way, where based on our qualitative research, we decide, wait a minute, let's go look at what those numbers are, because this is what, our small sample of qualitative is telling us, and so we'd like to see what the quantitative data says. So to me, it's part of it. I do think the automated tools are in from a user research perspective. To me, they are limited, mainly because oftentimes, most of the time, you have a very difficult time deriving any why answers out of them. They're telling you what, but you don't know why. So everyone's clicking on that picture, or everyone's, no one's clicking on that, and it's like, okay, why? I don't know. So to me, it's, as a user research type person, I always want to know the why. So that means I'm going to tend towards qualitative. But I think it's still useful.
I mean, yeah, and as an econ person, of course, I do like the
You like the
quantitative.
Yeah.
But people, quantitative it's so easy to do quantitative. Yawn. Yawn.
No, it's not. I don't think it is.
Then why does everyone do quantitative?
I think
not
it's
qualitative?
easier to do qualitative.
Hold on though. Everyone has quantitative data. Very few people have qualitative data. Your companies, organizations.
I think a lot of organizations have both. But
have you ever met a company that has only qualitative data and not quantitative data?
Sure. Don't ask me who it is. But I probably
that's what I'm saying.
Someone.
It's like the quantitative is easier because everyone has quantitative data.
Well, it's easier to some people. I understand what you're saying. Yeah. All right. Challenges? You want to know the challenges?
Yeah.
So, when you're doing what you might consider, typical qualitative research, right? You're doing an interview, you're doing a user test, something like that. There's this whole idea of, putting people at ease and building rapport before you start. I mean, you don't need to become their best friend, but often these situations are a little, right? Someone's been recruited, or it might be someone, maybe it's a stakeholder, or maybe it's an internal user group, and they kind of know what you're doing. Whether they know you or know what you're doing, or whether you're a total stranger, either way, it's a little uncomfortable for everyone. Now, maybe this is me as an introvert talking. Maybe other people don't have a hard time with this, but someone's come in and you got to start the session off, and you want to try and put them at ease enough that they're not so uncomfortable that you can't get good data, right? So there's this whole little thing at the beginning of building rapport, saying hello, welcoming them, thanking them. That is that can be harder to do if you are not in person, face to face. We have a lot of social norms, social behavior, what's expected when we meet someone for the first time in person. And generally, unless it's an unusual situation, most people are relatively friendly and, smile and all of that. So we're just used to that. And of course, if you're on video chat, you have some of that, right? If they can see your face and so on, but it's not the same. And it's also true that in a significant number of times where you're doing, for instance, a remote moderated interview or a remote moderated user test, you might be on video, but they might not be. It's actually really common in fact, I would say most of the remote moderated interviews and user tests I've done, the participant did not have a camera on. And this is for a variety of reasons. A lot of people, these days, webcams are becoming really common because of COVID, but not everybody has one. And pre-COVID, even now, if you have one, you may not want to turn it on. And if I don't have to, right? If I've been recruited to do an interview with you about your product, I might not want that camera on. And if I'm required to have the camera on to do the interview, I might not agree to sign up. So people don't like turning the camera on. and being, when it's a stranger. So you may lose that kind of, being able to see them, and then it's harder to build rapport. So that's one thing. Another thing is you may not be able to control the environment. So, and that's I mean that in a whole bunch of ways. So, not only control the environment. Well, yeah, control the environment is what I mean here. Like, they might be in a noisy place. They might be interrupted. They might they might you can't control their equipment, so their microphone is bad and you can barely hear them. They're all kinds of things. If you had brought them into your office for the session, you would have a lot more control over what's going on, and you have much less, and that may make it more difficult. You may require them, they may need to download a prototype or have access to a prototype, or on their phone or their desktop or their laptop or their tablet, and maybe that doesn't work. It doesn't run as expected. They don't have the right browser or whatever. There's all kinds of that kind of glitches that can happen, and you're not there to help them fix it, right? I mean, you might be trying to help them remotely, but that may make it difficult. We talked before about not having video and the harder to build rapport, but it also means you can't see if the video isn't working, or if it's at a weird angle, you may not be able to see their facial expressions, which gives us a lot of information. You may not be able to collect info on context of use, right? So as you mentioned, if it's a product that's being used in a medical clinic, well, maybe you're not in the medical clinic now. So if it's important to get context, you may not be able to do that. Let's see what else that we have. And they may have a bad internet connection. You may only be able to collect data from, who you're collecting data from may not be as representative because of this, and that's always an issue. Are you talking to representative people? But I live in rural Wisconsin, right? And there's still a significant number of people here who don't have high-speed internet.
Right.
Someone was telling me yesterday they were doing user research, and the person they were interviewing had to cancel because it was raining, and their internet doesn't work when it's raining. We have this problem up here. It's actually I'm serious. It's there's weather related high speed internet issues around here. There are people who don't even have, they not only can they not get internet, they don't have reliable mobile, and if it's very wet, their landline goes out. I mean, they're just, you'd think in the year 2020 this wouldn't happen, but it does. Also, because of all these possible problems, you may not get through as much of the test or the interview questions as you thought you would.
Right.
Right? So that's another thing, is you may not get through as much. Now, if you're doing a lot of what we've been talking about, would apply either mainly to the remote moderated and maybe to the remote unmoderated. If we turn to the challenges of the remote unmoderated, you've prepared things ahead of time, and now they're going through it, whether that's a card sort they're doing with a card sorting tool, or a user test they're doing with unmoderated user testing tool, or a survey they're answering, and so on. You're not there to answer their questions or to help guide them if they interpret something incorrectly and they've gone off on some weird tangent, and you can't bring them back. You can't ask follow-up questions, right? What do you mean by that? And so that's definitely can impact the data you get. So those are some of the challenges I've got on my challenge list. So it sounds really bad, and we should just end the episode now and say don't do it?
No, of course not.
Do you have
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why.
Tell me why, Guthrie.
Of all the benefits.
Are there benefits, Guthrie?
There's so many benefits.
Do you have any more challenges you want to add?
Oh, I think the people who do the research are not as good remotely. Did you talk about that?
What do you mean?
I think it's harder.
People who do remote research are bad researchers?
No, not at all. I think people are better in person. They're better in a room. They're better at communicating what they usually. I'm sure you'll maybe get to this, but I feel like there's more time for confusion. More like, I don't know. I feel like they develop a better rapport with the people. Make the people, if you're in person, you care more. Maybe I'm wrong. But I just think that in my very limited experience seeing user researchers do remote work, it just kind of feels like, oh yeah, the remote work's fun. But if they get to do like an in-person one, it's like a big deal.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
And like that's like, oh boy, we're doing in-persons today. Whoa.
Now, there's one thing I do want to say, because we're shifting into the advantages, and I have had the experience. There was one user research study I was working on that we did for a variety of reasons. We did some of it in person and some of it remotely, and it just had to do with where the participants were located and how much of the budget we were going to spend traveling and so on. And this was what I would call exploratory user research, exploratory interviews, where we were asking, we were exploring how people felt about this and what was the process for doing this. And it wasn't a user test. It was kind of an open-ended interview. And one of the things I experienced that surprised me at the time, and then when I thought about it, it was like, oh, that makes sense. But at the time it surprised me, which was people opened up a lot more when they were for the remote interviews rather than the in-person interviews, which was not what I was expecting, or I hadn't even thought about it. But I found that because we were doing these remotely, we did not have video on the camera on the person. I don't believe we had video camera on us either. So I think we definitely had screen share, because there were times when we wanted them to go to the website of the brand we were discussing. But I felt like, and it was interesting because at the beginning, a lot of them were quite guarded and weren't sure where it was going. And then people would loosen up and open up, and then they'd really start talking. This had to do with the experience of shopping in a particular, it was for clothing and apparel, clothing, shoes, that kind of thing. But we were trying to dig into their perceptions of the brand and what they, we were asking questions like, what makes you feel like a company appreciates you, and what do you like shopping online? And they were, it was a kind of personal experience questions. And the ones that were remote, got into all kinds of emotional things about how, I mean, just remember people people talking about things like, since my daughter's gone into her teen years, we never do anything fun together anymore. But shopping online together, that's something we can do, and I can get her to come sit next to me, and we have fun. And this one was like almost in tears because this meant so much to her. And I'd have many more of those conversations with the remote people than the in-person people.
Hmm.
And I think it
so
was because you weren't looking
better.
at them. They didn't feel as vulnerable. They felt like they could start to open up. Anyway, that was my experience. Maybe it was just one anecdote. I don't know.
All right.
So it's possible advantage, I think.
Sure.
Okay. So other advantages.
Hold on.
Ahead.
But that doesn't necessarily negate what I said. I said that the researchers kind of bring their A game in person.
Yeah.
But there are so many advantages. But it might be better for those who are for the users.
For the participants.
For the participants. So,
yeah.
maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, no. I understand what you're saying. Yep. So, other advantages. You mentioned at the top about money, right? So yes, it can be cheaper. And the main reason it would be less expensive would be you don't have to go flying around everywhere, right? To do these. You don't have to rent facilities, right? You don't have to.
Well, this is why it's cheaper, right?
Yeah. So it definitely can be cheaper, but the issue, though, also might be you've got to. Sometimes it might be harder to recruit people, might be, and so you might have to pay more for the people you're recruiting. Or I have some clients who normally would recruit from their customers, or recruit from their employees if those are the users, and that's tougher now, and they're deciding. I was talking yesterday to a client who said, well, we may not be able to get the people we usually get. We may have to pay a panel. And so that's a cost that they don't usually have. And you may have extra cost for tools. So it's like, okay, we need to, buy a remote tool. We need, to buy usertesting.com or Userlytics or UserZoom, or right? And those aren't insignificant costs. They're not bad, but it's not like they're zero. And if I normally don't have to do that, right? I have my employees, I pay them anyway. Now, on top of that, I gotta, pay for the tool. So, I think it still ends up being cheaper, but I think it's maybe not as much of a difference as you might think.
Right. Well, I mean, but with all the new tech and the new tools, is that really going to be true moving forward? One of the reasons that I think we've seen so many more, I guess the proliferation of remote user research has been that I think that it's become, what did remote user research look like in the 90s?
Well, I wasn't born yet, so...
Right.
Okay, I was born. I am trying to remember what remote...
I'm just saying, but there's so many now.
Like
the tools,
we didn't.
around
We
bandwidth.
We could do phone interviews, We were doing phone interviews. I'm trying to remember if we were doing anything else. Yeah. Definitely, that's true.
Now, and there are even so in 5 years. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know what's gonna. That's a great question. What's gonna happen in 5 years with remote user research and remote user research tools? And
think of all the new cool tools that it's going to be available to people. The automation of things.
Maybe. I don't know. It's a really, really good question. It's a really good question. You know, there's one, why didn't I talk about this before? I want to tell you one main problem. We were talking about advantages. Let me finish advantages and then go back to a big problem that I forgot to mention. So it can be easier to get people and schedule people. It can be, you're in a city and like, right? You're in Chicago, right? So if someone's trying to recruit you to be a participant in a study and they tell you got to drive out to Schaumburg to the facility, right?
Yeah.
How likely are you to do that versus, well, you can stay at home, we'll just do it over video chat, right? You don't want to drive out to Schaumburg.
No, I mean, people don't even want to go out to get their groceries.
Well, I'm talking not even COVID.
Right? So, why would I want to, have to drive out to Schaumburg to sit in a room to help you out? It's just,
right.
Really?
You're going to have to pay me more money, right?
Come on.
Yeah. So, it's often easier to schedule people. And it's easier, I mean, besides money of your team traveling around, it's easier just to schedule your team as well. But, one thing I forgot to mention. Here's an interesting problem. So I want to I guess I forgot to mention this because I was going to talk about it when I got to tools, which is I'm rolling into. So, some of the user, let's talk about remote unmoderated user testing tools, like usertesting.com. And, so there's several of the user testing tool companies that we have worked with, that we've partnered with, and so on. Am I allowed to just list their names, the ones that are kind of partners and friends and stuff?
Sure.
Okay. So we do a lot of work with usertesting.com. Really, really like those guys. They're great. We've done some work with UserZoom. Really like those guys. They're great. And we've done a little bit of work, you haven't, but I have, with Userlytics, which is another one, and they're wonderful too. So those are three particular remote unmoderated user testing tools. Also, I've done work, I've used a lot of other tools. TechSmith, which does Moray, has Moray, which is software for user testing. Also, Optimal Workshop, which has great tools for doing card sorts and tree tests and so on. There are many more companies out there these days. There used to be like one or two, and now there's like a lot. And they're all kind of similar and all kind of different in terms of the features and the capabilities and what their strengths are and so on. For the remote unmoderated tools, if anybody listening is not really familiar with those, basically for user testing, what you do is you set up your scenarios and task questions that you want to ask, and very easy to set them up. You can you have your either URL, or you can send them to a prototype, or it can be on a phone, and the participant is using this special software that then records at least their screen and their voice. Some of the tools have the option that you can also record from a camera or webcam remotely unmoderated. Some of them don't. And so what happens is the participant is looking at the instructions, and they're looking at the prototype or the website or the app, and they're doing the task you've asked them to do, and they're talking out loud, and the whole thing is recorded. And typically it's going to run about 15 or 20 minutes. That's about as long as you can really do remote unmoderated, which is, usually if you're in person or even at least remote moderated, you could probably go 45 minutes, maybe an hour. But if it's unmoderated, the best practice is to do like 15, 20 minutes. And then you get the videos, and then you watch the videos, and that's your test. And there's two different tools have different things. Like you can include as survey questions, and they'll give you that data. You can tag the videos at various points and do highlight videos, so you can pull from all 10 participants, pull out the video where they were doing task 3, right? You can some of the tools, you can get a written transcript of the audio, which can be really helpful. So
and I'm sure once, like, with more AI,
we'll be able to do more.
Yeah, you take a Google. It's not open source yet, but assume there's like the Google API that lets you to do real time, truly accurate transcription.
Yes, no, that's happening already. So, and like I said, the different tools do different things. Now, here's the interesting challenge. Some of the tools include, as an option, their panel of participants. So many of the tools do this, where you pay a fee. Usually it's a little less expensive than if you hired a recruiting firm to recruit people. But you pay a fee for every person that runs the test. And there's a panel of people, all over the world, and you can specify all kinds of things. We had a client recently that wanted to specify electrical contractors, and I didn't think they were going to be able to get people from the stock panel, and they were. So all kinds of things that you can get, different ways to screen. And then these people on the panel, they have been trained in how to do these tests and how to talk out loud, so that when they're using your product, they're talking out loud, and you can hear what they're thinking and why they clicked on that, and so on. The problem you have if you are running this test, sometimes you don't want to use a panel for a variety of reasons. I want to test the students, from my college, right? This is software that has to do with signing up for classes. I don't want to send it out to a panel around the world. I want my students in my community. Well, here's what happens when you are using participants that are not, used to doing this. They don't say anything.
Yeah.
You see, I went through this recently with a client who, it wasn't students. They wanted people who do grocery shopping in a particular geographic area, and so they didn't use a panel. They actually, did their own recruit, and it it was an unmoderated test, and they set it up, and they, got people who were willing to participate. I think they gave them a gift card or something, and it was video after video after video of people. You could see them. You could see their screen, and they were clicking, and they were doing the task, and they did not say a single word. So you had no idea what they were thinking, or anything, and it was really not useful. You would have gotten the same data just from analyzing click-through data. It was like hardly anything useful out of that. And that is, and in this particular test that I was watching the videos for, it said at the beginning of every task, make sure you talk out loud about what you're thinking as you do the task. And no one did. So that, I think, is a real challenge. I forgot to mention that in the challenge. Which I think is why sometimes people just go ahead and use the panel, right? Because the panel knows what to do. But, the panel, people, even if you do the right screening and so on, are they really totally representative? I think that's tricky. So that, I think, is definitely a challenge. So we talked about tools, right? We talked about Optimal Workshop and other kinds of. There's other. UserZoom does card sorting. There's other ways to do card sorting. We talked about unmoderated user testing tools. And then, of course, there's all the, if you're doing, you don't need a user testing tool if you're doing like interviews. You've got, Microsoft Teams and Zoom and Cisco and, right, there's all the video chat software works well.
Right.
Then you have all the tools for heat maps and click-throughs and A/B testing. And then we haven't mentioned, I have on my list here, I'm looking at surveys. So we haven't mentioned surveys because you know what I think about surveys.
You love surveys.
I don't.
Surveys are definitely your most favorite thing that you do.
No, they're not. Although I have to say I really enjoy critiquing survey questions. I was talking to someone the other day, and I mentioned the fact that you probably, do you ever answer the phone and someone wants to ask you, they're doing a survey and you go through it?
Well, so hold on. A survey, or are they doing like a poll? Like have you heard of the Illinois District Attorney's race? What are your thoughts, like doing like a survey?
The survey.
Yeah. But like a political, statistically significant.
Yeah. No, well, yes and no. Or even just a survey that's not political. I figured you probably don't do those on the phone. Because you probably don't.
I always answer.
You do? You answer your phone?
I'm such a weirdo.
Oh, I rarely answer.
Love doing it. That's my favorite. Look, you have to remember, some of us don't live in a swing state.
Oh, yeah, I live in a swing state.
I get no calls. I get no, you're probably getting, you have a landline in
Yes, I have a landline in a swing state.
It must be nuts.
And when it gets close to any election, whether it's primary or local, it'll be really bad when, I've been in some of these polls, the Marquette poll and the whatever poll, because now normally I don't answer the landline. I don't even know why we have a landline, and I don't usually answer it. But every now and then, especially as it gets close to an election and the phone is ringing off the hook, I think it's kind of fun. If I'm in a fun mood, I'll answer it. But the thing is, you do not want me on the phone. I feel bad. I feel bad for these people because some of these surveys that they're asking, whether it's political or not political, because sometimes it has to do with products, they're not that well designed, the questions and the answer choices. Some of them are better designed than others. And I do this for a living. So you get me on the phone and you ask me a question that I think is poorly designed. And and so then the poor person on the phone, right? They didn't design it, right? They're getting paid,
They read the questions. So I know they're reading the questions.
They're absolutely reading the questions. And so they'll read the question and they'll read the answers. And then I'll say, well, Yeah, I don't think that question makes sense. Because, and I'll go...
no. Oh no.
And,
so what I do is I always try to like make them laugh.
Oh my God!
Because I know they have to ask the question.
How do you make them laugh?
I always make them laugh.
How?
I
don't think there's the people I'm on the phone with. I don't think there's anything I could say that would make them laugh.
They're always laughing when
they never laugh with me. So I'll say, well, I don't know how to answer that question because the way you've worded the question, it's not clear to me whether you are asking,
oh, no.
blah, 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 and I'll do my spiel, and then there's like total silence.
Oh no!
For like 5 seconds, and then they just read the question again.
I always think it's like I think it's for me. It's sort of like I talk to them about like they're it's like on a 1 to 7 scale, and I'll be like, well, they get like a 4 out of 5, and then it'll be like, and they get a 0, and then but I don't say it angrily, like it's like a joke.
Yeah.
I always get them to laugh.
I get it.
They love me.
I get the very serious people.
But anyone on the phone loves me. I always get told by customer service people that I'm like the best person they talk to all day.
Well, you are nice to customer service people, unlike me.
Yeah. It's amazing. I always get the best deals. Like doors open up for me all the time. You just gotta know the game and know that they're playing the game, and like they want to help you, but they can only help you with the game by playing the game. So you play the game, they'll play the game.
I think
with you.
I may need to take some lessons. I have tried from you. I have tried over time to use some of to be nicer, and I have. Sometimes I've been really not nice, and sometimes. I have to say, sometimes, well, no, I'm going to say mean never works, but sometimes I am extremely persistent, as you know some of my customer service stories, where, like the time...
Well, now hold on. I think that times may have changed. There might have been a time...
Well, yeah, now you can't get hold of anyone.
Yeah, well, there might have been a more wholesome time when customer service was in the building, right? It was, Betty in customer service or Sam in customer service down the hall from a manager, from a something. And now, like, customer service, like, you're in a phone center somewhere.
I have a question.
And they probably, they don't have any authority. They can't talk to anyone. They can't send you to a different extension.
They can't send you up the line anymore, which they used to. It used to be if you were being difficult or anything, they would say, "Let me get a supervisor on the line," right?
Well, but that makes sense. Like when we're just working day to day, and someone has a tough question, it's like, hey, that's kind of above my pay grade. Let me talk to my manager because they're the ones who are actually.
Now you don't get that.
Yeah, no, never.
There is
So back in the day, sort of a persistence, a hard-nosed attitude would get you somewhere because there were roads for you. But everyone realized actually the best way to deal with these people is just not to deal with them.
So it's my fault because I was so persistent. I'm the reason everyone has shut down.
Right. So now like I said, you got to play the game. They have the little script. They have like it's almost like those like the text-based adventure games?
Yeah.
Where it's like, do you turn left at the fork or go straight through the woods?
What do you do next? Yeah.
They can only take a very, very, very limited set of actions that are predetermined for them.
For you, Guthrie.
So you just gotta play with them so that they can get you in the path. And if they like you, they're gonna actually kind of give you the good path. As opposed to just being like giving you the crap path.
Okay, but here's my question.
Yes.
We're in the time of COVID. People are working from home.
Yes.
Customer service is a job that can be done from home. And even before COVID, a lot of places, did have some of their customer service people working from home. But why is it that now you can't, like I needed to talk to a very large company, a very large online retailing company.
Yeah.
Also has stores, but does a lot of their stuff online. And I needed to talk to them about an order that, was way overdue and the tracking didn't lead anywhere. And I wanted to find out what was going on. And what seems to be happening these days is, like, it was normally you'd maybe have a 5-minute hold.
Right.
It was a 2-hour hold. They said, it's going to take 2 hours to get you to a customer service representative. Luckily you had the option of having them call you back. But, and also when I went on chat with the same thing, they said, we'll get to you as soon as we can. Your wait time is 2 hours. So why, and I realize we've gone way off topic here, but why is it you'd think that, you got people working at home, why don't they put more customer service people on? Why is it worse now?
Oh, well, I have a bunch of theories about that. Theory number one is that, corporate inefficiency and corporate control are at the utmost of all these things. And these are lockdown, preset systems. The whole point is that there's no flexibility, that the customer service people are just sort of a cog in a very carefully constructed machine. So there's no ability for them to just go home and do the work on their computer. They can't just use their personal line. They can't. It just doesn't work that way.
Because they've closed down the office, that means
there's no flexibility to have all these people working from home. That's guess number one. Guess number two might just be belt tightening, and they've just laid off all the.
This is not considered essential to the business.
Yeah, it's customer service. Like, this is like the first place that's going down.
Probably right.
But I do think it's a lot more the first part, which is corporate inefficiency, sending the stuff out to third parties that just do not have any capability to have this be flex or run on someone else's machine, or because it's probably proprietary, and it's probably very. Because you got to call.
Security.
When you call, you call in, and
it's
then you
true.
get to
you have to be able
the
to
routing to the
and you have to be able
bank,
to look up
to
their
the
order, right?
Yeah, all this kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and so there's just because back in the day, customer service people were paid more, and so they were higher paid, higher quality.
Yeah.
Not higher quality, but more skilled workers that were, trusted to, be a valued member of the team.
Problem.
And now most customer service is just sort of a mercenary, like, I'll do an AT&T today, and maybe I'll do, like Tyson chicken tomorrow, and you're just sort of a gun for hire. And so because they wanted to save money because customer service departments were too expensive, so they slimmed it down. They made it as cheap as possible. But now this person, like, they don't care. They're just talking on the phone, and then they're trying to do a good job. But like, the company is not going to trust them to like give all to allow them to log into the network.
Okay,
to look at
I'm
orders.
going to rein
and
us
stuff.
back because we really did get off topic, and I apologize to our listeners for our rants on customer service. But there's a couple things I forgot. First of all, we said that we were going to make announcements at the beginning of our episodes, and then we totally forgot to do that. So we'll have to make some announcements now. But I do want to wrap up the user research thing and say, for those of you who are not used to doing, I said this yesterday to one of our clients who is not used to doing remote user research, and I said, just do it. Go try it out. Do a pilot. Just do it. Don't be hesitant. It's going to work great. Don't stop doing user research because you got to do it remotely. So I really encourage people to do it. I think it's great. I think there's a great future in remote user research. We do a lot of it. I love user research. Do it. That's my message. And then, do you have anything to add to that, or can we make some announcements?
No, we'll make announcements.
Okay, announcements. So, we just released, since our last podcast episode, I believe we released a new certificate program, which is the Brain and Behavioral Science for Leaders. I think that's true, isn't it? I think so. So we have some new courses, all kinds of new courses. So go check that out at courses.theteamw.com. And we're working right now on our next new one that I won't announce yet because it's not done. But hopefully it'll be done soon. So on one episode coming up, we'll talk about that. Guthrie, what other announcements do we have?
Besides the fact that we have a ton of courses coming.
We have, is it true that my second edition of 100 Things Every Presenter Needs to Know About People is now available in China? In Chinese?
That is true.
Right, that's been released just in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And my second edition of 100 Things Every Designer Needs to Know About People is available on pre-order. And should be coming out in about at the end of June, I think. It'll actually be shipping. So I think is that it for announcements? If people want to reach us.
Yeah, info@theteamw.com, as always.
Thank you everyone for listening, and stay safe. And
wonderful.
Be well.
Yeah. You as well. I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.